At the locations, we found approximately 97 kilograms or over 207 pounds of fentanyl.
Enough fentanyl to kill approximately 48 million Americans. That's according to FBI and DEA agents who just busted a massive drug trafficking ring in metro Atlanta.
4:19 a.m. Chicago, Illinois. A thin winter fog hangs over the south side. Sodium streetlights turn it orange. Lake Michigan wind pushes garbage down the curb like it has somewhere to be. Most of the city is asleep. Federal agents are not. 17 simultaneous targets. 22 cities. 906 warrants. 8,818 pounds of fentanyl. And one address in Chicago that makes every investigator in the room go quiet. This isn't a drug raid. This is a forced reset. Unmarked SUVs roll without headlights through the industrial grid near the Calumet River. Tactical vans idle with engines muted. K9 handlers hold leashes tight enough to whiten knuckles. Radios whispering clipped, practiced codes. No sirens. No warning. No second chance. Inside a temporary command post 2 miles away, a wall of monitors shows live feeds from body cams and drones. Maps. Pins. Timers. At exactly 4:23, the order comes down. Execute. If you want the full truth behind what happened in Chicago, hit like so this reaches more people. The first door doesn't break on the first hit. A reinforced steel slab, bolted into concrete. A warehouse that looks like any other. A name on the paperwork that sounds boring on purpose. Great Lakes Distribution Group. The battering ram strikes again. Metal shrieks. Concrete dust blooms. A hinge tears free like a ripped tendon. Then the flashbang. White light. Shockwave. Silence shattered into motion. Agents flood in. FBI. DEA. ICE Homeland Security investigations. U.S. Marshals on perimeter. ATF teams stacked behind the second line. The commands are sharp. Hands down. Now. Inside, the warehouse is clean. Too clean. Forklifts parked in perfect alignment. Pallets wrapped like gifts. Safety posters on the wall. A break room with a fresh pot of coffee and a half-eaten donut. Normal. That's the trap. Because the most lethal operations never look like a movie. They look like a business. What they find first isn't a mountain of powder. It's paperwork. A binder labeled route optimization. A laptop open to a shipping dashboard. A spreadsheet tracking returns that never return. A logistics operation. A corporate spine. And then, behind a false electrical panel disguised as a breaker box, the first real thing. 91 kilograms of fentanyl. Sealed. Pressed. Coded. NYC 11. BOSS 07. ATL 19. Den 04. Little stickers for big funerals. Each pill is a counterfeit. Perfect edges. Correct color. Imprinted like the real thing. Blue oxy. White bars. Yellow perks. Except these aren't medicine. They're execution devices. 2 milligrams can stop a heart. Not a hardened addict. A teenager at a party. A college freshman who thinks it's safe because it looks pharmaceutical. A father who found one in a drawer and thought it was pain relief. Dead in minutes. Foam at the mouth. Fingernail marks on the carpet. A phone still unlocked on the floor. This isn't addiction. This is industrial-scale poisoning. Comment poisoned if you've seen this destroy someone in your community. Agents push deeper. There's a second door inside the warehouse that doesn't appear on the floor plan. Painted the same beige as the wall. No handle. A hidden latch. A short hallway. And a room that smells like plastic and ink. This is the packaging room. Pill presses. Heat sealers. Rolls of counterfeit labels. Mylar bags printed with fake lab results and fake dosage warnings. There's even a QR code. Scan it and it leads to a dead web page that used to impersonate a pharmacy. A lie layered on a lie layered on a lie. On a stainless table sits a shoebox of thumb drives. Dozens. Each one labeled with dates. The dates go back 19 months. The deeper agents dig, the clearer it becomes. Chicago is not a distribution point. It's a headquarters. Not street dealers. Not corner crews. Accountants, coordinators, dispatchers. A cartel enterprise with employee schedules, payroll, and performance metrics. And there's something else. A whiteboard. Routes. Names. Numbers. Payments. And one column titled Friends. Under Friends are not gangsters. They're badges. A Cook County deputy. A city narcotics officer. A customs inspector at O'Hare. A probation officer with access to federal systems. This wasn't a few dirty cops. This was a staffing strategy. If that betrayal makes your blood boil, Comment exposed right now. Outside, another team hits a trucking depot near O'Hare at 4:31 a.m. The air there tastes like jet fuel and ice. A mechanic's bay. Tool chests. Grease on concrete. Then AK-9 alerts to the rear axle of a long-haul trailer. They pull it. They tap it. The sound is wrong. Hollow. Cut it open and crystal spills out in packed tubes. 387 kilograms of methamphetamine hidden inside functioning axles. Engineering so clean the trucks drove cross-country without a single vibration complaint. These aren't street hustlers. These are supply chain architects. And they don't build this without protection. In Cicero, another warrant goes hot. A suburban storage facility. Roll-up doors. Cameras on every corner. Agents breach one unit and find a wall of rifle cases. AR-15s with filed serials. Glocks with extended magazines. Drum mags still wrapped in plastic. A .50 caliber rifle in a factory foam cradle. There's a crate with grenades. Real ones. Fragmentation. Metal teeth inside. Beside the weapons are night vision monoculars and ballistic plates. Military gear. This isn't for Chicago. This is going south. The cartels are exporting the tools to defend their empire. Share this story so more people understand what's moving through normal American buildings. Back on the south side, agents locate a third structure connected by a covered loading corridor. It looks like a maintenance shed. It isn't. It's a counting room. Industrial tables covered in cash. Vacuum sealers running warm. Currency counters clicking like insects. Stacks of 20s, 50s, 100s. Rubber bands. Ledger sheets. The total is calculated later. $18,420,000. Cash sitting in a warehouse like it's inventory. Because to them, it is. In another corner, agents find a gray safe bolted to the floor. Inside are passports. Mexican, Guatemalan, Honduran. US passports with different faces but the same photo lighting. Fake identities for real criminals. And a thin folder of printed screenshots. Court dockets. Hearing schedules. Witness lists. Somebody inside the justice system has been feeding them the future. It's 5:12 a.m. now. Chicago is still mostly asleep. The sunrise is still an hour away. But in a secure facility in Quantico, Virginia, 53 investigators watch the feeds in silence. They've been building this for 19 months. They didn't trust local departments. They didn't trust border offices. They didn't fully trust each other. So they operated like they were hunting a foreign intelligence service. Sealed indictments. Compartmented briefings. Encrypted comms that never touched agency email. A task force built to survive corruption. Because they learned early what the cartels already knew. The easiest way to move poison is not through tunnels. It's through people. What started this isn't a big seizure. It's a body. February 14th, a year earlier. A hotel room near Interstate 94. A 19-year-old named Mateo Rivas found slumped beside a vending machine receipt. He told his friends he bought a Xanax bar to sleep. It looked real. It wasn't. Toxicology shows fentanyl. No other opioids. No prescription records. A single counterfeit pill ends a life that hadn't even started. 2 weeks later, another death. Then another. Different cities. Same imprint. Same tablet weight. Same binding agent. A chemist at a DEA lab notices it first. The pills aren't just similar. They're identical. As if they're coming off the same press. That's the red flag. That's the thread. And when agents pull it, it leads to freight records. Then shell companies. Then a Chicago address that shows up again and again like a fingerprint. Midwest Logistics Solutions. Great Lakes Distribution Group. Lakefront Export LLC. All registered to the same 3 mailboxes. All paying rent on warehouses with no retail business. All wiring consulting fees to the same 2 accountants. If you want to see how the investigation turns paperwork into handcuffs, type trace below. By 6:40 a.m., the Chicago arrests climb. Warehouse supervisors. Dispatch coordinators. Armed guards. Drivers with burner phones taped under dashboards. 76 suspects in the metro area alone. Then the arrests that make the room go cold. 4 Cook County Sheriff's deputies. 3 CPD officers assigned to narcotics enforcement. A federal probation officer. An O'Hare Customs inspector named Daniel Klein. Klein is arrested in his driveway wearing his uniform. Coffee in hand. Badge on his belt. He doesn't fight. He just whispers one question. How did you know? Because the cartels trained him to believe the system was blind. They trained him to believe nobody was watching. But the watching never stopped. Across the country, the same pattern unfolds at the same hour. In El Paso, a Border Patrol agent named Marco Salinas is taken at 4:47 a.m. as he approaches the bridge for his shift. 11 years on the job. Awards for interdictions. A record that looks clean until you look closer. He's been waving trucks through secondary inspection for $18,000 per load. 53 times. That's $954,000. A scratch behind his ear. A tug on his collar. Little gestures from drivers that mean this one is ours. No dog. No X-ray. No questions. In Phoenix, a prosecutor named Jennifer Ortiz is arrested outside the courthouse where she's prosecuted drug cases for 7 years. Investigators discover she's been leaking informant identities. Names, addresses, photos. People died because of what she sold. In Los Angeles, an IC deportation officer is arrested for deleting cartel operatives from removal lists. $9,500 per deletion. 197 names erased. Some of those men are now dead. Some are now free. And some are now on their way back. This wasn't corruption at the margins. This was corruption as a service. If that terrifies you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because by noon, the numbers become too big to ignore. 8,818 pounds of fentanyl seized across 22 cities. 13,700 pounds of meth. $142 million in cash. 87 million in cryptocurrency recovered from hardware wallets and cold storage keys. 921 firearms. And over 5,000 arrests tied to the network. The scale doesn't feel real. So investigators do the math. A lethal fentanyl dose is 2 milligrams. 1 pound is 453,592 milligrams. Multiply it out and the seized fentanyl represents more than 2 billion potential lethal doses. Not a statistic. A weapon. Enough to erase a nation. And in Chicago, agents learned the hardest truth of the whole operation. The city wasn't chosen by accident. It was chosen because it works. Interstates spider out in every direction. Rail yards. Air cargo hubs. Warehouses as far as the eye can see. A distribution dream. A perfect place to hide a continental headquarters in plain sight. And the cartels exploited it with corporate discipline, shift rotations, quality control, driver incentive bonuses. They even offered benefits. A seized ledger shows payments labeled medical, family support, funeral support. Because they expect their own people to die. But they never count the dead on the other side. They never write the names of the people who swallow the pill and don't wake up. A mother of 3 in Nashville. A high school athlete in Detroit. A construction foreman in Philadelphia. A freshman in Boston named Hannah Price. She bought what she believed was a Percocet after a minor dental surgery. Her roommate found her face down beside a water glass. The pill came from a dealer. The dealer got it from a mid-level supplier. That supplier got it from a regional coordinator. And that coordinator's shipments trace back to a beige warehouse on the south side of Chicago. A straight line from a forklift to a funeral. Comment justice if you believe the people who built this machine should die in prison. The cartels call it business. Federal prosecutors call it racketeering. And the case files show a map that stretches far beyond Chicago. The fentanyl precursors are sourced through suppliers in China and India. Legal chemicals in raw form. Shipped as industrial compounds. Labeled as solvents, resin, or laboratory reagents. Containers arrive at Mexican ports. Manzanillo. Lázaro Cárdenas. Then the precursors move inland to superlabs in Sinaloa and Jalisco. Not backyard sheds. Industrial facilities with stainless mixing tanks, tablet presses capable of 75,000 pills per hour, and chemists who studied chemistry the way surgeons study anatomy. The finished product moves north. Some through ports of entry inside legitimate cargo. Some through tunnels. Some via couriers. But the majority through what investigators call the protected lane. That's where corrupted officials come in. A bribed way station operator in New Mexico who waves through overloaded rigs. A paid state trooper in Texas who ignores a nervous driver. A compromised warehouse inspector in Illinois who never asks why a logistics firm receives pallets at 2 a.m. Protection at every choke point. A system designed to defeat a system. And then there's the money. $15 billion a year in U.S. drug revenue, according to task force estimates. Money that has to move without being seen. So it moves through trade-based laundering. Electronics. Vehicles. Designer clothing. Bulk purchases that look like commerce. Dirty cash buys goods. Goods cross borders. Goods sell for clean revenue. Then crypto enters the picture. Bitcoin ATMs in strip malls. Peer-to-peer exchanges. Privacy coins like Monero. Transfers routed through wallets controlled by cartel financial officers. A modern laundering pipeline with old-school brutality behind it. And real estate. Miami condos purchased through shell companies in states with weak disclosure laws. Phoenix suburban homes bought in cash. Industrial properties near rail yards quietly acquired and quietly repurposed. Agents estimate more than $5 billion in cartel-linked U.S. real estate over a decade. This isn't just organized crime. This is infiltration. This is a national security threat wearing a business license. If you believe the public deserves to know how deep this goes, share this video before it gets buried. The day after the raids, the Department of Justice steps to a podium. No long speech, no victory lap. A simple statement. Largest coordinated strike against narco-trafficking infrastructure in U.S. history. Then the second statement, the one that lands like a hammer. Officials who betrayed their oath will be prosecuted like the criminals they served. Because the betrayals weren't isolated mistakes. They were a recruitment program. Cartel documents recovered in Chicago describe a process like human resources. Identify targets with financial pressure. Approach with a small favor. Offer a consulting fee. Escalate. Compromise. Control. Once an official accepts the first payment, the cartel owns them. Not just with money. With fear. Photos of a daughter's school. A spouse's commute route. A parent's address. A quiet message. Keep working. Or lose everything. That's how institutions rot without anyone noticing until the floor collapses. In federal detention centers, suspects are processed. Most face decades. But the corrupted officials face something worse. RICO. Honest services fraud. Bribery. Obstruction. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Charges stacked like bricks. Agent Salinas in El Paso is looking at more than 50 years. Customs Inspector Daniel Klein faces 81. Prosecutor Jennifer Ortiz sits in an interview room and admits the most chilling truth in the whole case. She didn't think anyone would ever find out. Because for years, nobody did. The cartels grew. The poison spread. And the line between law and crime blurred until it disappeared. 6 months after the operation, federal analysts release an impact assessment. Overdose deaths in targeted corridors drop. Supply disruption drives street prices up. Regional networks scramble. Mid-level managers vanish. Chaos in cartel communications. Messages intercepted in encrypted chats show panic. Routes abandoned. Drivers told to burn phones. Warehouses emptied overnight. But the same reports carry a warning. The cartels adapt. They always do. New routes. New faces. New shell companies with new names that sound boring on purpose. Because the demand remains. And where demand lives, supply will crawl through any crack it can find. That's the uncomfortable truth. This is not just Mexico's crisis. The customers are American. The weapons flowing south are often American. The laundering happens in American systems. A chain made of many hands. But enforcement matters because you can't treat someone who's already dead. You can't educate a teenager in a morgue. You can't counsel a parent after the funeral and call it prevention. So the war becomes this brutal calculus. Disrupt supply. Save lives. Then fight the roots. But the roots are deep. And they're watered by money, despair, and corruption. In Chicago neighborhoods that lived under the shadow of distribution crews, something shifts after the raids. People talk. Anonymous tips hit FBI field offices. Warehouse sightings. Suspicious late-night loading. Unmarked vans that come and go. Fear cracks. Not because fear disappears. Because for the first time in years, people see the cartels bleed. They see badges arrested in handcuffs. They see that the machine can be damaged. Not defeated. Damaged. And that matters. If you want more investigations like this, hit like again and comment what city you want covered next. Because the legacy of that morning in Chicago is not the fentanyl bricks on an evidence table. It's the message. To the cartels, you can be found. To the corrupted, your badge won't save you. To the public, the threat is real and it's here. Trust is fragile. Once a community believes the system is compromised, cooperation dies. Witnesses vanish. Tips stop. Silence spreads. And silence is where networks thrive. Operation Iron Fortress, whatever name history gives it, wasn't just a strike on drugs. It was a strike on the idea that corruption is inevitable, that the enemy can buy anything, that the public has to accept mass poisoning as background noise. But here's the final truth. This isn't over. The next warehouse is already leased under a new shell company. The next dispatcher already has a new phone. The next corrupted official is already being watched, sized up, approached. A knock at dawn can come for anyone living a double life. And that's the point. If you believe betrayal should be punished, comment accountability. If you believe communities deserve protection, hit subscribe right now. If you want more people to understand what's happening, share this story today. And if you think the fight against this poison is worth continuing, hit like one more time. Because the next operation is already being planned. And this is only the beginning.